necessarily one of those guys. Just looking myself squarely in the mirror and telling myself, you could do a lot better on the field, like a lot of stuff, without the football, with the football, and just helping this team win. And I think you see a lot of guys just rising up to the occasion, no matter the age or nothing. You see guys rising up.
That was Dalvin Cook. Now, I couldn't tell. He was saying, I think he was referring to before the 2-game winning streak, saying, I looked at myself in the mirror and said, I can be doing some things better. Because if he's still looking in the mirror and saying, I think I can do some things better, I would say, dude, you're fine.
He could play defense. He's not playing defense right now.
I guess that's true.
He could punt. He's not punting.
Maybe he could kick field goals if Dan Bailey.
He's sort of disappointing.
2 out of 8.
The more I think about it, with that talent, he's not doing enough. He's right.
He really does need to learn how to play slot cornerback. This is Purple Daily. I'm Phil Mackey. That's Judd Zulgad. Declan Goff producing as always. And you can find us every single day during the Vikings season in podcast form on Apple, Spotify, and scorenorth.com. Tell your friends. And you can find us on youtube.com/Purple Daily Podcast, where we appreciate it when you click that subscribe button. And today, this is a Judd Zulgad brainchild here. He said, let's come up with some questions and awards here at the midpoint of the season for the Vikings. So I have come up with 10 Vikings midseason questions for you guys. Some are midseason awards. Some are just questions I'm curious about. Let's fire up some music and let's go through 10 Vikings midseason questions.
All right.
Starting with a game that we like to play from time to time. Who would you fire, extend, and go year to year on right now? Rick Spielman, Mike Zimmer, Kirk Cousins.
So fire, extend, year to year.
I'll give you guys a couple seconds to collect your thoughts here.
I feel like we're going to be in a unanimous decision with this. I think all 3
categories.
categories.
Extending year to year. I don't know that. I don't know that we're going to be unanimous on that one.
I don't know. Rick,
right.
What are you laughing at, Rick?
Yeah, don't laugh, Rick, because you might be in trouble. Let's start with, to me, the one that I think all 3 of us are going to agree completely on, and that's fire. It's going to be Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
Like, you get rid of the contract. He's not that good.
Yeah, that's true.
That to me is one that all 3 of us probably are going to agree on immediately.
Yep, I'm just good on that. And you know what? For all the people saying, well, Rick Spielman's worse at his job than Kirk Cousins, I don't care. That's not true, but I don't care.
Right, and Rick Spielman actually can find guys to play. Yep. His quarterback deficiencies cost him a bit. Year to year for me is Spielman.
I agree.
And I'm extending Zimmer, and here's why. If push comes to shove, I think he can win me games individually. Like, do I think that he can win a championship? I don't know. But, I mean, he has proven, right, in these last 2 games, his defense is not that good or just flat out not good. But he's finding schemes and ways. I go back to the Saints playoff game. The Vikings probably shouldn't win that game, but defensively, he comes up with this really, for lack of a better term, genius game plan. So fire Cousins, year to year Rick, in part because I don't trust him to find a QB, and that's probably the most important thing that Rick should be able to do, and it's just not, for various reasons, worked out so far. And then my extension goes to Mike Zimmer.
I think Mike Zimmer is actually proving this season what a good coach he is. Like, is he Bill Belichick? No. Is he Pete Carroll at his best? Not necessarily. But we might not even really know how great of a coach Mike Zimmer is until he gets the quarterback that some of those other guys have had. When we think about the best coaches in the NFL, like, look what Mike Tomlin does. Well, yeah, I mean, Mike Tomlin has Ben Roethlisberger, just a steady Hall of Fame presence for 15 years. And Bill Belichick had Tom Brady and Russell Wilson over in Seattle. And so Mike Zimmer has a well above 500 record going into this season with guys like Sam Bradford, who was, is fine, like whatever, like couldn't outrun a tree stump, and got hurt all the time. And he had Teddy Bridgewater as a limited rookie. And now Kirk Cousins. Imagine giving Mike Zimmer an elite quarterback, a top 5 quarterback to go along with the defensive prowess. And then when the team looks like, they finally hit that point in a coach's arc where he's going to get fired, right? Like almost every time when you start the way the Vikings started, that coach gets fired. And this team has fought for Mike Zimmer. So I'm with Judd. I'm firing Kirk Cousins. I'm going year to year with a good general manager in Rick Spielman, who does have some flaws, but he's a good general manager. And I'm extending the guy who has shown that this team does not quit on him. So do you agree or disagree?
I actually disagree with both of you. I'm extending Spielman. I'm year to year with Mike Zimmer. And you know what? It's interchangeable. I probably did short sell the fact that this wouldn't be a unanimous decision. I just think that Rick Spielman finding talent throughout the draft has been like there's plenty of evidence of that. And I just don't know, like, and I really like Mike Zimmer. I've said to you guys that I think he is the best Vikings coach of my lifetime. I put him ahead of Denny Green. I really do. Maybe that's because I've been exposed to him more, but I just don't know if Zimmer's philosophy can last in 5 more years. But I do know that Rick Spielman, if I had to guess who would be more successful in the next 5 years at finding talent in the draft versus being a Super Bowl team, I think you have a better odds that Rick Spielman will find good draft picks than the Vikings will win a Super Bowl under Mike Zimmer. So that's why I would go that way.
All right. Tell me, you guys.
Come on! Football!
Question number 2 here, 10 Vikings midseason questions. The game so far this season that surprised you the most and why?
The game that surprised me the most easily is the Falcons' loss because it was so bad. And I mean, I know that the Falcons got a bump from having fired Dan Quinn as their coach and having a new coach for that game. And I understand all that. But the Vikings have never been that bad. Like, they lost close games to Seattle. Okay, Seattle. They lost a close game to the Titans, who lost to the Colts last night. But the Titans aren't a terrible team. In fact, I think that they're overall a pretty good team. And that was a close loss, and it hurt. But I think that you expect the type of losses that we saw, like to the Titans, to the Colts, to Seattle, for young teams that are developing. The Falcons game was, and Phil, I think you might be right in retrospect. The Falcons game to me was Kirk throws that first pick, and then ultimately, now in retrospect, I think your call is correct. They sort of just quit on Kirk. Like, they just sort of said, okay, we're done here.
It's a coworker that you're like, oh my God, dude, what are you doing?
So I was not shocked that they lost. I was absolutely shocked in how it looked.
Dex?
Me, it's the Seahawks game because I think we all went into that thinking they were just going to get absolutely waxed in that game. They jump out to it. They install an amazing game plan. They're up 13-0 at halftime. And then obviously the biggest kicker was the decision on 4th down, or I should say not converting the 4th down. If you win that game, I think we are looking at a completely different Viking season right now. Like we're going to the Bears game saying, okay, if they win this game, then it's for real. Then they can go on a run. And instead, if they had that win in their pocket right now against a team like Seattle, I think the trajectory and how we look at the Vikings is completely different. So I would say that result surprised me so much because they almost won, and it would have literally changed the course of how we're looking at this game.
So to me, it's a tie. The most surprising game, the way that they came out against the Packers and just absolutely mauled them with the running game. And that was a Packers team going into that game that everyone kind of thought Super Bowl contender. And then all of a sudden, boom, the Vikings come along and show, oh, you can actually just run it down their throats. But I'm going to go with what Declan said. That game at Seattle, going into that game, you're thinking, well, this is going to be a massacre like it almost always is. And they had a lead and they were ready. If they convert on a 4th down and 1, the game is over. Like if they just lean forward a yard, the game is over. And instead it took a 94-yard drive by Russell Wilson to go down and to work his magic. But it's the game that kind of had you thinking, and then of course they lay an egg against the Falcons, but it's the game that kind of had you thinking, all right, well, this team's record is terrible, but they did lose a really close game to Tennessee, who's really good. And now they almost beat Seattle. And now with the context of the Green Bay and Detroit games, you kind of do look back and think, man, like if you either don't have the clunker against Atlanta or you squeak out one of those 2 close games, or heaven forbid you win multiple of these games, what could be ahead on this path for the Vikings? So they still have a chance to make the playoffs.
So the one thing I think is important though about this discussion is I really believe the 6 quarters before the bye week launched the Vikings to their 2 consecutive wins, because starting with Kirk's 3rd quarter meltdown against the Seahawks, starting with that meltdown and then extending to the Falcons game, which was a debacle. I think those were 6 quarters of film that during the bye week, Mike could say, we are taking the car keys out of his hands for good.
Yeah,
I really do. If he doesn't melt down, or if they get Dex the 1st down, okay, and they win that game, I think the Falcons game is different. I don't know how much, but I don't think it's a lopsided loss. I really think that those 6 quarters of football helped define during the bye week that they were going to change how they ran things, especially offensively, to the way that Mike wants, and not the way that makes sense for a quarterback who's paid as much as Kirk Cousins.
Your offensive MVP,
Okay.
not named Dalvin Cook.
Oh, wow. Man, I didn't see this coming.
Why would I ask who your offensive MVP
I didn't see
is?
this coming because I was going to laud the potential National Football League non-quarterback MVP of the first half.
We did that on the previous episode of Purple Daily, so
Right.
check that out. Check that one out. Is Dalvin Cook an actual MVP candidate?
All right, I am going to give this to a young man who has been underutilized, but when he has been, he's been brilliant. Justin Jefferson. I mean, look at his big games, and I know that they have come in defeats, but we are talking about a guy who is, to me, a breakout star, which is a great sign. And if and when you get the quarterback who can actually utilize those skills consistently in, let's say, victories, it's a big deal. So if I have to pick an offensive MVP that's not named Dalvin Cook, I'm going with the rookie, Justin Jefferson, who has turned out to be a marvelous draft pick.
Yeah, I feel like it has to be Double J if you're not going to talk about Dalvin Cook, just because
Jeff Jarrett.
a little Jeff Jarrett action there for you. And yeah, Adam Thielen's having a nice year, but it's not like MVP worthy. I don't know. I don't get the vibe of it. At least I don't get the vibe. The numbers suggest you could make that case, but I don't get the vibe. And with Jefferson, we didn't think it would be an immediate flame impact just like this. And yeah, there's still some frustrating parts, not about himself, but how he's being deployed in a game plan. But he's stepped in and has filled the role of Stephon Diggs from day one. We thought maybe, all right, maybe a year down the road, he'll be in Stephon Diggs' shoes, maybe a year or two. And no, in 6-8 games, the guy is absolutely phenomenal. So he'd be my MVP if it's not Dalvin Cook.
I will just say ditto. It's Justin Jefferson. You could make it. Adam Thielen leads the team in receptions, but he's only 3 up on Jefferson. Jefferson has like 200 yards on Thielen. And I think eye test will show you that Jefferson's the better wide receiver, just like the more explosive, dynamic wide receiver. And that's not because like Adam Thielen's a white guy. I'm not doing that thing because Adam Thielen's also explosive, but Justin Jefferson's on a different level. And I think he's one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. All right. Midseason question number 4. Who is your defensive MVP through 8 games?
Okay. I think that this one is actually pretty easy for me to answer. I am going with Eric Hendricks.
Yeah.
He is doing like he's good in ordinary successful years. He's on a defense that is very suspect and at times shoddy, and he's making more plays now, which he should do, but I don't think it's as simple as saying, go make this play now and that play. So what he has shown me, especially of late, I think starting largely with the Packer game where he was showing up all of the time, Eric Hendricks is my defensive MVP.
Yeah, it has to be Eric Hendricks. The guy is absolutely a freak. And I there's players that have improved on this team. There's going to be rookies that you knew that were going to be slow, gradual burns. And Eric Hendricks and Harrison Smith were your 2 locksteps after you lost to Neil Hunter. You knew that those 2 dudes are going to be able to step in and be intelligent football players and try to fill the void and make it easier for the rookies. But Eric Hendricks, I think, has really just taken even a larger step. We knew Anthony Barr, he's a special player and there's this glass ceiling he still hasn't consistently broke through. But Eric Hendricks has just been solid, and every year it seems he gets a little bit better and a little bit better. And similar to Harrison Smith, I still think both of them are criminally underrated around the league. So I'll with Judd. I say it's Eric Hendricks.
Yeah, I'm not going to die on this hill, but because of the inexperience of the cornerbacks, I'm actually going to say Harrison Smith because I think not only is he still as great as he's always been at safety, I think he's also an assistant coach on the field.
Might be right.
And he's sitting back there playing center field. And it's probably a lot easier if you're Harrison Smith to play that position when you've got in your prime Xavier Rhodes over here, and you've got Trey Waynes who's competent, in his prime, and now it's like, all right, I got a bunch of rookies and dudes we've just like signed off the waiver wire, so I have to make sure that they're not screwing up, and then I have to sort of do my Harrison Smith thing. So just the extra added pressure of being the last line of defense, pun intended. I'm gonna go Harrison.
Let's hear what you did there.
Yep. All right, some of these we can sort of collaborate on the answers to, but midseason question number 5. How many future Ring of Honor players, Vikings Ring of Honor players, are on the current roster right now? And by current roster, I also mean Daniil Hunter.
Deserving or guys who will politic after their careers are done to be put in?
Wow.
Like definitive.
That sounds personal.
Yeah, it does.
I just think there might be some guys who are like, hey, is this the year? No? Okay, next year then.
Who's going to politic?
I don't want to talk about it.
Tell us more.
I don't want to talk about it. I think
I know
Thielen's in. I think Thielen's in. I don't think it's hard to figure out who I'm talking about, okay?
Yeah,
and he's a good guy. I'm not trying to say he's not. He just strikes me as the type of guy who would call the Vikings at least once a year to ask if he's in
Are
yet.
you saying that maybe Irv Smith should get some of his snaps?
Yes. Okay. I mean, I don't want to turn this personal, but he strikes me as the type of guy who's going to be like,
He's
is
not
this
a
the
Ring
year?
of Honor player. He's a
No, I
good
know.
Vikings player.
What did I just say?
He's Brian Robinson.
What did I just say? He's the type of. I said, do you want guys I think deserve to be in or are going to call the politic to get in? That was my point because I agree with what you're saying. Thielen is in for sure.
Okay.
I think he's in for sure. Harrison Smith, Dalvin Cook, I think, is going to be in. Peterson's in. I think Cook's tracking to be in there.
He's tracking, yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, if his knee blows or something in the next couple games, then he won't be.
Daniil? Daniil's
Yeah, he's tracking to be in for sure.
Okay. Eric Hendricks is right now kind of on that Chad Greenway level.
I like this.
But I think Eric Hendricks is better than Chad Greenway.
Oh, yes.
So I think Hendricks is tracking.
I don't think that's a debate. Yeah, I think yes. So Kendricks, Hunter, Thielen, Cook.
Another dark horse that isn't there yet, but like if he keeps playing this way for 7 more years, Brian O'Neill is a really good right tackle.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm just saying he's on the watch list. He's on the watch list.
You're right. It would take a long career, but yes, that's probably true. Secondary wise, Harrison Smith, you said that's
Harrison
correct
right now. Unless you think Jeff Gladney is about to
Kendricks from
pop.
the linebackers.
Barr's not.
Hunter, but no current guys who are playing on the defensive line for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Offensive line, probably not. O'Neill, maybe, but that's with a long career.
You're not going Pat Elflein?
No, I'm not going Pat Elflein. Tight ends, I would say no, despite the fact what I said before.
What about Drew Samia?
Nasty.
If you were to pick an all-time Vikings ineptitude list, Drew Samia might make that list.
So I think we have
Spurgeon Wynn makes the list. Drew Samia might make the list.
I think we have 5. So Adam Thielen, Harrison Smith, Dalvin Cook, Daniil Hunter, and Eric Hendricks.
Slam dunks are Thielen and Harrison Smith to me.
For sure. I
mean,
mean,
slam dunks, like
Harrison
they walk
Smith.
in.
Well, Daniil Hunter too, though. I mean, unless he never plays again with a neck injury.
Harrison Smith is currently, I think, the only one.
Oh, Justin Jefferson.
Oh, yeah, that's true too. Harrison Smith is the only guy that I can think of on the current roster who right now tracks probably for Canton as well, right?
Daniil Hunter does too.
Well, he does track there, but I mean, he still has to come back and
Harrison Smith
be effective.
Is in the Hall of Fame.
That's what I'm saying.
If he retires tomorrow,
like,
I think.
If Smith steps away within the next 2 years, which he won't, he goes in, right?
Yep.
Hunter has to continue to play at the pace that he was before he got hurt.
Yep, that's accurate. All right, so think about that. So this roster has a lot of guys that are. Thank you.
Question. See what I did there?
All right, question number 6 here. Have we sort of a spinoff? Have we already seen the best of Daniil Hunter's career? What does your guys' gut tell you?
I fear
neck surgery.
I fear we have, guys, because it's a neck. Like if this was a knee or something, I'd be like, oh no, they did the surgery. It's going to take some work, but he'll ultimately be fine. But when we're talking about a neck, I hesitate to just say, oh, he's fine. He's going to have to pass a lot of tests to play again, which I think he will. But guys, he was dominant. And I cannot guarantee you that a guy coming back from a neck procedure is going to be dominant, certainly not quickly. So unfortunately, if you put my feet to the fire right now, I think the answer to your question is yes.
Can we just get the guy one of those Brian Cox back of the neck boards that shoots straight up over your helmet?
Necks are awful.
It's not. If it was a knee injury, I would be now. Like, obviously, like a neck injury makes maybe you're hesitant. Maybe a doctor says like, dude, you got to sit out longer.
Right.
If it was something that cut off his speed or could it cut off his strength?
Yes.
That could be something that.
And if he
no longer forklift an offensive lineman off,
And if he gets hit in the head again, now it compresses the vertebrae in his neck. Like there's a lot of fallout concerns here that I don't think that at this point we can dismiss.
But if he does come back from surgery and he comes back, the good news is he's still in his physical prime for the most part, assuming the neck injury doesn't like chip that away. And he's getting to the age where you get the experience and your physical prime sort of merge. And it's the age where guys really start to put up ridiculous pass rush numbers.
I hope you're right.
So what do you think, Dex?
I don't think we've seen the best of him yet. This guy's still 25 years old. I mean, you got to remember that. Or he just turned 26, excuse me. But he's only 26. He's only had 3 years of double-digit sacks. I truly think that there is still way more to his game, and this is consistent. Mm-hmm. Remember, too, Peyton Manning had a diffused neck vertebrae and went out to have 3 of the best seasons of his life at 38, 39, 40, different positions. Well aware of that. Well aware of that. But Judd, but even in those first 3 years in Denver, he was the MVP twice. He was unbelievable. He was just as good as Indianapolis, and he was 39, 40.
But he was
don't
protected,
think a 26 years old can't figure it out and still be like one of the best defensive ends in the league?
I don't think that's the case, though. I think the case is it's a position where head-to-head contact happens a ton and your neck gets compressed. I think that this guy is going to come back and try really hard. And I think that he's got all the characteristics of a potential Hall of Fame player. All of that being said, Phil's question is, do we think? And I can't sit here in good conscience and say, oh, yeah, he's fine. If it was a knee or a foot, I'd be like, no problem at all.
Sure. Yeah. All right, question number 8, making our way through the 10 midseason questions. Offensive line. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being you look at the offensive line as constructed right now going into this Bears game and you see 5 Drew Samias. That's a 1.
Oh
5 roving Drew Samias, all right? And a 10 being like the 1998 Vikings offensive line where you had Jeff Christie, you had David Dixon, you had like just awesome guys up and down, right? You had Hall of Famer
Randall
McDaniel.
Mm-hmm.
What number grade would you give the Vikings offensive line 1 to 10 scale right now, like your comfort level with it going into this Bears game?
Well, it depends on if they're going to continue to run the ball as much as they have, which I would think that they're going to do, or if they're going to pass, because I don't trust them completely to protect Kirk, and I don't trust Kirk. I would give them what I think is a very fair grade right now of comfort level 4.
We should have done this and held them all up because I would have held a 4 up too. We should have done
it's
it on
about
3.
a 4.
It's my bad. I produced this. I produced the question wrong.
I'll be optimistic. I'll say 6.
Okay.
Wow. I'm going to say 6. And anything above that would be a very hot take. I think that
10.
I think with the way they've been able to come up with a good run blocking scheme, and like when you really watch a lot of these losses and the situations, do we really look back on it and be like, man, if just the offensive line did this, and look, there's a collection of people who think like that. But us 3 even, I don't think we look at a bunch of these 5 losses and be like, man, if the offensive line was this, they'd be here. It's a chunk of the pie for sure. It's a chunk of the discussion. But I don't look at the offensive line as the deficiency of the team.
Yeah, I mean,
Samia in Seattle was
that was a problem.
That was an issue.
That played a role in why you didn't win that game.
Yeah, there are, according to Pro Football Focus, the Vikings run blocking is just it's a tick below league average. I mean, and I think it's been way better than that since they put Ezra Cleveland at right guard. Not because he's been a Hall of Famer, but because he's just average. I mean, that's what they've needed at that position. Pass blocking overall this season has been an issue, but I think your offensive line is made to look worse when you don't have the right mobile quarterback too. So that's something to factor in. I gave it a 4. It's probably more like a 5. That's fair. When you look and see, Riley Reif has been might be one of his best seasons ever at left tackle or right tackle because he played some right tackle with Detroit, I think, a few years ago. Brian O'Neill is great at right tackle, and Garrett Bradbury has become good at center, especially as a run blocker.
Yep.
And so you're not nearly as in flux as you were at the beginning of the season. The problem is you lose Riley Reif. So, I mean, there's almost no way, unless they restructure or something, he's gone next year.
And Cleveland moves to left tackle.
So Cleveland moves to left tackle, which opens up another gigantic question mark because he's never done that in the NFL before. It opens back up guard question marks.
Address your guards. You have to. Where does Dozier rank at left guard right now in the PFF rankings? Do you have that right in front of you, Phil?
Give me a second.
Because I'm curious. I don't think he has not been a dumpster fire.
I also
think he's not great.
And I also think someone like Garrett Bradbury, at least improving, is he Pro Bowl level or all pro level yet? No, but him stepping up from last year, I think that says something about the line as well.
I think the devotion that this team has shown to the run game in the past 2 games changes how we think about a lot of things, which does come back to, but who don't you have to concern yourself with, then it is your quarterback.
Oof. All right.
Not good, huh?
85 qualified guards. Well, you know who 85 is. And qualified means they've played at least 1/4 of the snaps.
Okay.
85th is Drew Samia.
Yeah.
On a 1 to 100 scale, it's like a real life Madden rating for PFF. He's a 33.3.
Okay.
Oof. It's not much better for Dakota Dozier. I mean, actually, I take that back. So Dakota Dozier is 71st, which is really bad. But he's a lot better than Drew Samia. Different positions, but
where's Cleveland then?
Ezra Cleveland has not played enough to qualify, but
Okay.
Ezra Cleveland, so Dakota Dozier is a 53. I think Cleveland's like a 58 or something.
Okay.
So he's a little closer and just more competent.
So a 4 is fair then.
But we're not really comparing Cleveland to Dozier. We're comparing Cleveland to Samia
Right.
and Cleveland to Elfline.
Right.
And he's better than both those guys.
I think a 4 is very fair right now.
All right. I believe we're on question number 8 here. You guys get 3 moves, and it can be anything. It can be personnel. It can be Mike Zimmer gone or whatever. You get 3 moves to turn the Vikings into Super Bowl contenders starting now, but for next year.
2021.
Realistic moves, okay?
Right.
Don't go. You can't trade Kirk for a first round pick, okay?
Can I trade Kirk for a 7th round pick?
Yes.
Oh, then I start with Kirk.
Give me 3 moves that you would make if you could wave a magic wand over the Vikings.
Move 1 is I trade Kirk, and if I can get a carton of milk, that's fine. I don't care what I get back, but I want that salary off my books.
Mm-hmm.
Move 2 is if I'm going to keep Zim around, I actually probably in the freed up cap space, I get a veteran stable. It doesn't have to be Pro Bowl star player, but I get a veteran stable cornerback.
Yeah.
This secondary, like the fact that they went in with these kids, I just don't get. I get a kid or 2. I totally get that. But 3 of them, come on. So I get stability at cornerback, and then move 3, and this is not going to be a sexy move, but ultimately effective, is on the offensive line. I get a really good guard. I get at least one good guard. Now Cleveland can kick out to left tackle if Reef is gone, which is fine. I mean, Reef is a nice player, but I drafted a guy in the 2nd round not to play guard.
Mm-hmm.
And so my 3 moves are I trade Cousins for a can of corn. I get a veteran corner to stabilize the secondary, and I get a really good upper echelon guard who can play probably left guard to play by Cleveland at left tackle.
Obviously, that's literally almost exact same 3 things I wrote down immediately that Judd just listed. But I'm going to just erase jettison Kirk Cousins because, again, I feel like all of us are going to we want to do that.
Yeah, we can even take that out.
Yeah.
That we would assume we're all going to try and trade
Right.
Kirk for a 7th round pick.
2 of the 3 things that remain the same. Yes, I signed the best cornerback available in free agency, not just an average guy. No, I signed whoever the best cornerback is. I'm throwing a lot of money at, and I get him because I think he'll help the secondary a ton. If that means saying goodbye to Ant Harris, you say goodbye to Ant Harris. That's totally fine. But you find the best cornerback available in free agency. You throw a lot of dough at him, make it happen. Zim's happy. It's a win-win. I also find a competent guard. I don't need to go find the best guard. I find a competent, league average offensive guard that's not going to break the bank. Just a $7 to $8 million, what you're spending on, a guy like Riley Reef after his restructure, and then you find him. And the 3rd move I make, I draft another wide receiver high in the draft. Another dynamic, changing wide receiver.
It's your first round.
First or trade back into the 1st or early 2nd or something. Figure out a way to get a receiver within the top 40 picks of the draft. Because obviously Adam Thielen's getting a little up there in age, but the dearth of receivers, you remember how much I was upset about a guy named Chad Beebe on Monday, okay? I'm sick of the Chad Beebes of the world happening. Find another dynamic receiver, and then you got guys like Jefferson and whomever that is in the next draft. And you're set, dude.
I will say I do. Some people are going to scoff at dude, you don't need another wide receiver. I love the idea of just having 3 almost unguardable wide receivers, and it makes your quarterback, whoever it is, awesome.
Unless you don't trust him.
No, I mean, if you have 3 great wide receivers, then
they're still not going to trust him.
You would trust him more. Well, I'm not going to fight you because Kirk's gone. So
yeah.
So here's the 3 moves I would make. I would draft a quarterback in the 1st round.
Okay.
Just period. That's what you need to find for the next 10 years of your franchise. None of this other stuff matters if you don't.
Love it.
So I'm drafting a quarterback in the 1st round. My free agent signings are going to be predicated on clearing some room. I'm assuming that some of these moves have already been made. Riley Reef is gone to clear room, and Anthony Barr might get cut to clear room, and Rudolph, etc. So with whatever room I have, I'm going for the best right guard, and I'm going for a pass rusher of some kind. I'm probably even drafting a pass rusher in the 3rd round and signing a pass rusher. I think cornerback is a lot less of a problem than you guys do. I think Mike Zimmer is showing Jeff Gladney is taking major steps midseason. Cam Dantzler has shown some great flashes. So I'm actually okay with Gladney and Dantzler going into next season, especially if Harrison Smith is still on the roster behind them. And I think with Danielle Hunter's health in question and the rest of your defensive line sort of full of backups, you need another pass rusher. So those are the moves that I am making.
Okay.
Question number 9 for you guys. What position do you think if the season ended right now and they missed the playoffs, if the draft took place, what position would the Vikings take in the first round? Not what they should take.
Right.
I just told you I would take a quarterback. What do you think they would think to take in the first round?
If they end the season on a positive note, I think the position that they will address, I think you might have hit it. I think it might be defensive end. I think that they might actually do.
Yes, yeah.
They have to be concerned internally that if and when Hunter does come back, which I think he will, that he's not going to be the same player. They traded Ngakoue, so the right end right now is wide open. Zim is going to politic for that spot. I do not think that they will take an old lineman in the first round. So I'm going to guess that one of your solutions, Phil, is right, but they're going to address it defensive end in the opening round.
Dex?
I will say cornerback. I want
we riot if that
the
happens.
quarterback. I want the QB, but I think this team's going to take another corner. I wouldn't
fire
be shocked.
everybody.
After developing these guys, though, you think so?
Yeah, I really do.
Interesting.
I feel like if they draft a cornerback, it's just such a, like, you don't know what you're doing as a franchise move at that point. Like, you guys have devoted. Mike Hughes is coming back,
Hopefully.
presumably.
Hopefully.
Jeff Gladney was was a high pick. Like,
Dantzler was a high pick.
You got your guys. Just
I agree
go
with
get
you
a
on
quarterback. I honestly think they take a quarterback. I think they know. I think they've literally drawn up the game manager blueprint for these last 2 games. I think they know that Kirk's not the guy, and they're going to do everything they can to just move forward. And
Hope you're right.
And that brings us to question number 10 Vikings midseason questions. Would you rather see the Vikings win or lose on Monday night against the Bears? Where are you really at here when it comes to what path you want the Vikings to go down here the rest of the season? All right. Well, again, the hypothesis or the mission statement here is win a Super Bowl,
right?
Long term, whatever,
Right.
maybe not this year,
Right. Because the league stinks and because the ship has basically sailed on the chance of you actually, through the natural progression of losing games, are not going to have a top pick. Like, your pick could still be decent, but it's not going to be great.
Mm-hmm.
I'd prefer to see them win now just because it creates more intrigue. And in some ways, it creates outrage from those who accepted the fate of this team through 6 games. And now it's changed a bit. I think the team, from the standpoint of a person who talks and writes about this team, I think wins now become more intriguing as far as storylines. And look, the playoffs, if they win against the Bears, the playoffs are a definite possibility that we can talk about. So I have now shifted from a selfish, self-centered, very 2020 American citizen standpoint to it being about me.
I want them to win. Yeah, I want them to win this game. Also, because it just never happens at Soldier Field. Like 2 wins, I think, in the last 16, 15 years in Chicago, for God's sakes. So I want them to win. I want them to win, and it'll set up a run for the Vikings. And I still am under the belief that you can, even though I want them to draft a quarterback, there's still a plan to make that happen if you're still in the 15 to 20 range, which is what they're trending to be in. So I want them to win.
I also am rooting for wins at this point because the ship has sailed on the tank for Trevor, fail for Fields. They do have a clear path. And you know what? At this point, like, whether you're drafting 6th or 20th, you can still jockey for position and make trades to get the quarterback you need to. The BYU kid who we love to talk about on the show.
Kid.
So I say
BYU.
I'm on the Judd plan of, like, you know what? If you were going to beat the Packers, then you better damn well go at this point.
Yep.
And they have so far. So those are 10 Vikings mid-season questions for you guys going into the second half of the season. This has been Purple Daily, Mackey and Judd, Declan producing, and we will see you guys tomorrow.